I would not be able to accomplish one single space repair if my nose was itchy. That'd be it. Like the whole mission would be scrapped because of
or
me.
what if you had a wedgie?
This is what I'm saying. And I think you have to pee inside the suit.
No, they put a little thing, a hose, right?
I don't know. I thought it was space diapers.
Oh, the space diapers. Okay, right. And then there's also the famous story about when the first woman went into space and they sent 100 tampons.
Just throw 100 tampons at it. Should be safe. That's just like the saying, right? Just throw 100 tampons at it.
That's my children's
book.
We're
throwing tampons at the problem.
Yeah. Instead of actually understanding.
Are you recording?
I'm recording.
What a time to be alive.
Wow, you're not kidding.
Stuff is happening.
I'm sure you were watching the Supreme Court this morning.
I was actually I was watching like sort of live feeds of it.
Right.
I mean, look, right now, the New York Times is saying that most justices seem skeptical.
Right.
Of the effort to curtail the abortion pill access. Guys, in case you didn't know what we're talking about, the Supreme Court heard the mifepristone.
Is that how you say it?
Mifepristone. Wait, hold on.
It's
it's also 9:40 in the morning.
Yeah, we're just calling it the abortion pill.
Meef. Mifepristone. They just literally, everybody just calls it the abortion pill.
Yeah.
It's actually 2 pills. We know this.
Right.
Anyway, the Supreme Court heard the arguments today.
As to whether access should be restricted.
Right. Basically, it was like it's a group of anti-abortion doctors and organizations. Dentists. Anti-abortion fucking dentists. You know what, sir? No, actually, no one is saying that you need to prescribe the fucking abortion pill to anyone. You're good.
Who even asked?
No one asked you, dentist.
Oh my God.
The issue is whether they have a right to challenge the FDA and the approval of the medication.
Right.
This is the thing where it's like the legality of it is like, it's not like, okay, if we're being very basic, it's like it could be effectively ban the abortion pill, which has been legal in the United States for over 20 years.
Right.
In most of Europe for 20 years beyond that.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, for almost
Forever.
40 years in parts of Europe. It's incredibly safe.
It's as safe, I read, as safe as Tylenol and Viagra.
Wow. Correct. Mifepristone. There. That's how you say it, guys. Mifepristone. I just had to read it so I could see the mifepristone. Mifepristone is used in nearly 2/3 of abortions in the country, and post the fall of Dobbs has become very important for people who need to access abortion care.
Right. And there's been a sharp rise in people accessing.
Correct.
Since the fall of Dobbs.
Correct. So, Supreme Court heard these arguments this morning. And according to like just the recap, much of the argument focused not on the recent changes by the FDA. Basically, the current challenge involves mifepristone, which we said was approved by the FDA more than 20 years ago. The issue is whether the agency acted appropriately in expanding access to the drug in 2016 and again in 2021. They did. I'm just answering it for you. But today in the hearing, much of the argument focused on not on the recent changes by the FDA or the broader implications for the pharmaceutical industry, but rather on the underlying statements by anti-abortion doctors and whether their claims were enough to bring the case in the first place, which is actually what a lot of people were saying. I mean, a lot of the people in the circles that I roll in were saying is that this case should never have been brought to the Supreme Court.
Right.
And
which is kind of what the opening arguments were. Like, let's end this because it's...
And they should end it.
It's nothing.
It is nothing, and they should end it.
So who knows if by the time you're hearing this, if we'll know more.
We probably won't. Look, they usually give all of their decisions, issue all of their decisions in June, late June, before they, go on break or whatever.
Right.
They're just like, and this, bye. I guess if you're
off to use their expensive luxury RVs purchased by billionaire donors as just a gift.
I was going to say, I mean, if you're, what's his name?
Clarence Thomas
and his wife.
Maybe going on a super yacht with Harlan Crow. Who knows where you're off to in June if you're on the Supreme Court.
They've got, he's got fancy people to be with.
Got dear friends who also happen to be billionaires, who also happen to invite him. I have friends that are wealthy, but I'm not going on a super yacht with them every summer. I'm not invited.
No. I wonder why.
It almost seems like I can't do anything to help them become
more powerful
and wealthy. So it is interesting. It is interesting, but it'll be interesting to see the commentary that rolls out, because it seemed to me like it was very cut and dry this morning. Like it almost seemed to me like, how like we talk about reading the room all the time. It felt like everyone who was reading the room was like, this was cut and dry from the beginning, and now it's even more cut and dry, and it should be like a nothing burger. But I wouldn't put anything past this court.
Nor would I. I don't think we can.
Yeah.
Also this morning, did you watch the ship in Baltimore? I've been on that bridge a million times.
I know. I watched that, and then I also watched like video of the confusion of people not understanding that the bridge was closed, and
I didn't see that.
Yeah.
But it's so devastating for Baltimore.
Yeah.
Just horrible, horrific. And I don't know, I haven't heard like if they were able to rescue people. I don't know. It's like terrifying.
Right.
It's terrifying and terrible.
Yeah.
And just a horrible accident. And what else fun stuff? Guys, I'm sorry.
God.
I'm sorry.
I know it's not a great start.
It's not a great start to the week. We have just hard. Well, Caissie and I have talked at length about Quiet on the Set. Because, whoa. Have you guys watched it?
The Nickelodeon documentary Quiet on Set is on HBO Max. I guess it's just Max now. We're not calling it HBO Max.
She'll always be HBO to me.
She'll always be HBO to me.
But it details the abuses at Nickelodeon to not only the kids that were the actors on the shows for a solid 20 years.
Yeah.
But also crew members, people in the orbit.
Women writers. And then beyond that, I mean, I would actually argue, and it wasn't something that was brought up in the documentary, the larger effect that the kind of sexual innuendo content
had on the kids watching.
Right.
It, especially boys.
Right.
And the objectification of these little girls in like the most sort of obvious and also horrific way. And then I finished it last night, Caissie, because I was like, I wasn't sure if I even wanted to finish it because I was so disturbed by it.
Yeah, we were like, what is this going to tell you that you don't already?
I mean, look, like I actually think there's more kind of like to be looked into with it.
Yeah.
Personally.
Yeah.
There was a statement from Dan Schneider at the end of it. And of course he did this like fake interview thing that was I watched it. I watched the whole fake interview.
Apology is in quotes,
apology,
by the way.
Apology and interview, both in quotes.
Right. By a former cast member who I'm assuming is still a friend of his.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not really the thing. But anyway, his statement at the end of the episode that they put when they had or the end of the last episode when, they had asked for comment or whatever was like, look, every episode went through, standards and practices and hundreds of eyes on it and blah, 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 blah. And the truth of the matter is, and I will tell you this, that standards and practices has a list of things they're looking for. They're words. It's words that they're looking for. And it doesn't necessarily cover some of the actions that he was having the girls do.
Right.
Specifically, I would say.
Right.
And so that to me is such a fucking cop-out because whatever, he knew exactly what he was fucking doing. That guy's a monster and he's disgusting. And everyone that allowed him to be in power for so long at Nickelodeon, I think is responsible. All of those people that worked with him, higher up on both coasts, like he always says in these things. Look at two coasts, New York and LA, we're watching. It's they allowed you to do these disgusting things.
Right.
It's not okay. I mean, where are the executives now? What other companies are they at? What other film studios are they running? I ask you, person listening, AKA Caissie. Yeah.
I also think, as you're saying, what are the implications for people that were young people that were watching this? I also think it speaks to kind of a cultural illness that we were going through at the time.
Totally.
Where we were are we doing this? If kids think it's funny, is that enough of an argument to give them this garbage that we're not thinking through? Is that because that makes us money? It kind of goes hand in hand with where we had just come from, the way that we treated our young pop stars.
Right. Well, it's also concurrent.
Yes.
Also that in the early mid 2000s was the upskirt paparazzi of young women. If you guys remember that.
Right. Matt Lauer fucking chuckling about seeing up
Anne
Hathaway's skirt.
Fuck that guy.
On morning that was our morning television news culture at that time. So it just seems like we were in a really, I don't know. It seems like we were in a really weird time where nobody was protected, but particularly children and women, and not particularly in this environment. And I don't think, Dan Schneider, if you're listening, I don't think the argument a bunch of people said it was okay is the argument that you think it is.
I agree.
It's a bunch of people were wrong, know? So.
Also, bro, do some fucking work. You've had time.
Yeah.
forcibly, like, you know, like he was like removed from set. He's just one of these people. He won't take any, like, there's no responsibility taken.
Right.
Oh, except for what? Like, I'm sorry if I was mad on set. I was a
mean.
perfectionist.
Yeah.
Fuck you. Guess who else is a perfectionist? Me.
Well, also, it's like, it's not brain surgery. It's a children's sitcom.
100%. That's what we always say about television, period. You and me.
Yeah.
We're just like, I mean, there's no reason to be an asshole. You guys, you're not changing the world.
You're doing make-em-ups puppet show with people.
Make-em-ups. You're doing some make-em-ups, buddy. You know what I mean? Like, you chill out now. You like, I don't know. It's not, but it's like all indicative of a greater issue. Having people massage him, touch him. Are you out of your fucking mind?
Can I tell you something? Okay, I want to tell you 2 examples of something. One,
yes.
The Rosie O'Donnell show, people would send things in all the time. One time I remember Rosie was like, oh, I'm really craving coconut ice cream with chocolate covered almonds. By the time that live show was over, so many companies had custom made coconut ice cream with chocolate covered almonds and sent it into the office. When she said that she loved Krispy Kreme donuts, when Krispy Kreme had a resurgence, we didn't just get donuts sent to the office. We got the donut maker. The conveyor belt was sent to our office. So shit was getting sent there all the time. More than anyone could keep track of, by the way. One day, a massage equipment company had sent in a massage chair where you could like sort of sit kneeling and get like a shoulder rub. One person on the staff kneeled in that massage chair and one other person on the staff approached them to rub their shoulders, and that fucking chair was gone so fast you would not believe. Like it was gone, because even though that was a big show and hard to keep track of and impossible to keep track of all the things that were coming in and out of there, everybody who was in charge knew that that's not going anywhere good, right? Even if everybody's intentions were innocent, it's just not workplace appropriate. This is the 1990s. Everybody knew it wasn't workplace appropriate and that like something could easily be misconstrued, whatever. That chair was gone and removed from where we could have access to it. So I just want to say that, like, to claim unawareness or whatever, okay, but people were aware at that time, and I think people probably had gut feelings and that they didn't act on.
Well, they literally also say, like, the one costume woman who's interviewed, it doesn't show her face, but she's like, my colleague in the wardrobe department would get these texts like, come massage me. And she didn't want to do it. She knew it was disgusting and creepy. She didn't want to do it.
Right.
And she really felt like if she didn't do it, she would be gone.
Right. And being in showbiz, being gone doesn't just mean being gone from that one job.
Well, yeah, depending on how powerful the person is or how powerful their friends are.
Right.
It could mean that you literally never get hired again.
Right. So there's that.
Which is why like the Me Too movement was such a big deal. Like just Hollywood break, in case it was, obviously like it crossed over to other industries for sure. But specific to Hollywood, like, and obviously I wrote about this in my book. Like there was always this understanding that, especially if you were a woman, especially if you were a young woman, there was no good outcome of you speaking up or making waves in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
About any sort of mistreatment.
Right.
And like, you want to work. When I did that NPR interview and she sort of asked me like, what was it? Like, why did you just suck it up? And I was like, it's a great question because everybody else did. because it felt like I didn't have any option because I wanted to do this thing. And certainly like in Quiet on Set, and then, you know, you've heard other victims of really horrific, you know, sexual misconduct on sets or sexual assault with people in positions of power in Hollywood who just straight up like fucking left the business, left the industry.
Right.
We're like, oh, it isn't worth it to me.
Right.
And I guess to me, like, I always experienced things that felt like terrible and also that I could handle.
Right.
Terrible and also like, well,
also,
I don't know.
We were young. So
Yeah.
we, like when I entered show business, I did not have, and I was an adult at that point. I was a very young college graduate. I was 21 years old. I had not experienced what life was like in the grown-up world. I'd only experienced, by the way, my own dysfunctional upbringing, which informed the way that I looked at everything else. And so a lot of things I was like, well, this isn't as bad as like what happened to me when I was 10.
Totally. And that also, to the point, is part of how all of this like culture gets continued and like continues to be a thing. People ask me still when I do interviews if post Me Too, I think it's gotten better on sets for young women. And I was like, I don't know. Why don't you go find some young women and ask them?
Right.
Because what anyone would try with me at this point, no, I'm fucking fine.
Right.
I'm a 44-year-old grown-ass woman who's been doing this for 25 years. You think a fucking crew member is going to tell me they jacked off to me last night? No, I don't think so.
Right.
It was shocking when I was 33.
Right.
But I'm 44 now. I would be surprised.
Yeah.
If
no
that
one's
happened.
Gonna try it. No
But
one's going to try it.
I would go find some young people.
Right.
Well, you know I'm a cat person. It's been hard this week being away from the kitties.
Yes. Well, we're a cat house now too.
I know. Oh my gosh, did you get the smalls yet?
We have to get the smalls.
Get the smalls.
It's
No, you
on
have
its
to.
way. It's on its way for little Sunny.
Well, because our cats legit fight over smalls and we have to separate them when they eat because Gilda will literally steal Rosie's food if we're not careful.
Because it's delicious.
It is delicious, apparently. We don't know. We haven't tried it, but the cats love it. Smalls cat food is protein-packed recipes made with preservative-free ingredients that you would find in your refrigerator, and it's delivered right to your door. So why don't you make it your resolution of today?
Yeah. You don't have to wait for the new year.
No, I mean,
not for your cat.
Not for your cat. Why don't you get your cat eating healthier with Smalls? I love that it was started in 2017 by just two guys cooking cat food at home in small batches for their friends, which is so cute. And after making the switch to Smalls, 90% of cat owners reported overall health improvements, which is a big deal. The team at Smalls is so confident your cat's going to love their product. They can try it risk-free. That means they will refund you if your cat won't eat the food, which they will eat the food. I'm promising you. I have two cats that are picky eaters, and they both love their Smalls cat food.
And I'll just feel better knowing that Sunny's not eating burnt, crunchy kibble.
Gross. It's 2024. You can't still feed your cat kibble. Head to smalls.com/best and use promo code BEST at checkout for 50% off your first order plus free shipping. It's the best offer you'll find, but you have to use our code BEST for 50% off your first order. One last time, promo code BEST for 50% off your order plus free shipping. Listen, you know, here we are. I'm talking about living out of a suitcase, and boy, am I lucky that I love my suitcase. I love that bass. It's all about the bass. You love it too. And listen, in the case of traveling, actress and model Shay Mitchell,
genius.
She's like all of us. She was just looking to make travel a breeze and fashionable.
Yeah.
I mean, she's more fashionable than most of us, I would say. Probably more fashionable than me, for sure.
I try. And I do love the way that my base bags look.
I have that like really cute like off-white one.
Yes.
Ugh, so good.
Yeah.
And it fits everything. Base has thought of everything that you could ever want. It's 360-degree gliding wheels, cushioned handle, built-in weight indicator, washable bags for your dirty clothes, which has come in handy here for me.
It really helps keep me organized, which is the key to everything when I'm away from home.
There's tons of sizes and colors for shorter trips. We love that weekender bag. Caissie and I both do. And there's a zip-off thing, and then that just becomes your tote.
Yes.
And we love it.
It's perfect. It's so thoughtful.
So whether you're packing for a quick trip or looking to breeze through security, Base has you and your personal items covered. Right now, Base is offering our listeners 15% off your first purchase by visiting basetravel.com/best. Go to basetravel.com/best for 15% off your first purchase. That's BEIS travel.com/best.
The other thing I wanted to say as a writer about the whole comment about like so many people, there were so many layers of approval for this material, and Busy was saying that they're looking for words and not actions.
Standards and practices is just like very specific. They have like they're legally looking for very specific things that aren't allowed on network television.
Right. And also what I wanted to say is that even with that list of things that aren't allowed, so that's practices. That's the practices part of standards and practices. That's the list of things that we're definitely never going to let you say on this show. Now, the standards part is more like things that we want to talk about, whether or not we can say or do them. And as a writer, and you're trying to be funny, and I never worked on, well, that's not true. I have worked on some children's programming, but for the most part, I've worked on programming that's for adults. I never had a standards and practices issue on anything I worked on for children because I wasn't trying to push any boundaries there. But comedy for adults, yes, as a writer, I did try to push boundaries. Here's a very specific example.
Great.
I remember one time we had written blowjob into a script. We were talking about the suggestion that someone had been given a blowjob on a television show. And standards and practices said, you can't say blowjob. And so we were trying to think of a funny way to say blowjob. So we offered another list of alternate ways to say blowjob. And some of them, standards and practices, were like, definitely not this one, definitely not this one. It's a possibility that we could say this one. They were trying to work with us to convey, because we're trying to do comedy. So we're trying to say like oral sex in a way that's funnier. So we had this list. And ultimately, what I believe, after some negotiation, we were allowed to call a blowjob a mouth hug. Like that was our joke.
It's kind of funny.
Our joke.
I like it.
Yeah. And so we were like, yeah, we're making up a new phrase for a blowjob. It's a mouth hug. And
stupid.
They allowed us to say it because I don't even know why. But my point is, relatively low on the pecking order writers are even allowed to debate and negotiate with standards and practices.
I was going to say that too. I know this from being on shows, not from being in the writer's room on shows. I know that things get flagged by standards and practices, and it's up to the show's creator, writer, showrunner to be like, oh, no. What it means is actually this in this context.
Right.
And it's not what you think. They talk specifically in that thing about naming the Amanda Bynes character like Penelope Taint.
Right.
And he says in the writer's room that it's definitely taint after the body part, like in between balls and the asshole.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
But then when standards and practices brought it up, he was like, no, taint, like something is tainted.
Right.
That's what we mean. Because she taints everything that she touches. But he knew exactly what he was doing.
Yeah, he did.
He knew exactly what he was doing. It's all fucking, I don't accept any mid fucking non-apology from that fucker. If I were those kids, I'm not kidding. If I were like all of those child actors, I would like class action lawsuit the fuck out of that motherfucker and take his billions of dollars. He's still making money off of them, by the way.
100%. Yeah.
And like, I understand like some of the bigger stars not wanting to be a part of the documentary. I understand. I get it. Like, I don't know, to be quite honest, if I would have wanted to be a part of it myself, like if I were on one of those shows.
Right.
But I'm glad for the actors that felt like it was important for them to speak out, especially the girl who was on Zoe 101, who's a mom now. And I think like just has this whole, you know, it's like Memento, right? Where like you see everything in reverse, like with a whole new lens on. Yeah. And it feels like it's really difficult for her. It feels like she's having like a very difficult time coming to terms with what she was put through, not knowing, like,
right.
Like she didn't, you know, she talks about this like cum shot thing.
Right.
Oof.
You definitely have to be, I had to be like in a certain frame of mind to be able to watch it. And so
Alexa Nicholas.
I
thought she was like incredibly brave and well-spoken and just, you know, and
everybody was, because to be honest, everybody that participated had nothing to gain from it.
Right.
It's not changing the circumstances of the trajectory of their careers for the better. It's not getting them millions of dollars, and it's getting them a lot of scrutiny and people casting doubt on the things that they said. Drake Bell, for me, that was so heartbreaking because my kids were such a fan of Drake and Josh. And I actually knew Josh Peck when he was a little kid. He lived in my neighborhood. He did stand-up comedy on the Rosie O'Donnell show when he was like 7 or something. We were just so into that show. My kids loved iCarly. So everything Jeanette McCurdy is coming out with now it's difficult, because like, well, you were talking about you don't blame young people who participated in these shows. I was a young parent who participated in letting my kids watch these shows.
Oh my God, Birdie and I watch Victorious.
Yeah. And, and you're just kind of like, it's one of those things where your kid is reaching like this age of independence and they have their independent tastes. And like, I don't know. I mean, I guess like maybe here's the two possibilities that I have to wrestle with myself is, one, was I not watching as closely? Was I not sitting and watching every moment of these shows and picking up on, or was I watching more than I was aware of and I wasn't picking up on it again because of like my own history and just being like, yeah, this is normal. Like double entendre is a normal form of humor to have around adolescence or whatever. Like that, like, did that just seem normal to me? And so those are things.
Well, it did.
It did, I guess. Yeah, I guess.
I mean,
I just feel like it was a rough time. And it was a rough time for a lot of those kids. And again, like I just go back to, I got into show business when I was 21. You were 19.
Yeah.
Like we didn't.
But a lot of my friends were so much younger.
Yeah. But we didn't know how people were supposed to act. And I'll also say like I saw a lot of commentary where people were like, where were the parents? And it's kind of like the parents didn't know the business either. Because if your kid is getting into showbiz and you haven't been in showbiz, you don't know the way it's supposed to work. And they like, they're describing how they essentially try to separate you from your kid because like it's necessary in some ways. And in some ways it's insidious, and that you just can't be with your kid every moment, or you couldn't at that time be with your kid every moment. And I get it. I mean, had one of my kids come to me at the age of 6, 7, or 8 and said, it's my dream to be on a TV show, I would have done everything to make that happen for them. I would have.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's just,
And of course, by the way, I want to just say that Drake Bell has had his own situation where he then became like a predator to a teenage girl.
Right.
And he served, I don't know. I need to look, but I know there was a trial and I know that he was charged.
Which they mentioned.
Yeah. Look, I mean, and that's also, right? Like, that's also the truth. And Jesus, we have to like trigger warning this whole fucking episode. That's also the truth about how these cycles of abuse continue. Right. You know, I don't know. I've not done enough. I mean, I'm not a doctor. But it feels like, you know, that it's such a tragedy. It's like just such an unbelievable tragedy.
Yeah, it's a mess.
It's a mess.
It's a mess. And it just really made me think, like, I'll try to express this in a way that doesn't sound like I'm so stoned. But it just made me think about how we still haven't figured out as people how to treat each other, how to treat children, how to treat our elderly. And then we have all these explosions in technology and culture that like keep bringing us back to the same failures as people. How to treat each other, how to treat children, how to treat the elderly. I mean, how to treat each other covers it. But I just think of like, those are the three distinct groups that I just think we really fall down.
It's the most vulnerable.
Right.
It's not, you know, right. We're not good culturally at protecting and taking care of the most vulnerable among us.
Right.
And I think a lot of it has to do with the idea that is so pervasive because of like whatever capitalism of like, you know, the cream rises to the top, survival of the fittest, blah, blah, like all that fucking shit, which is just dumb.
Right.
And doesn't work.
And isn't true.
But yeah, from start to finish, the docuseries, I also think it does a pretty great job because I was just with some people that were like, but where were the parents? And I'm like, I think it does a pretty good job of explaining not just that the dynamics when you have a child actor oftentimes are that kid is the breadwinner for the home. And so like there's all this financial pressure. And then as a parent, you feel guilty. And so you're like sort of let them kind of do whatever they want to do. But that also like the parents a lot of times, like you said, aren't in the industry. I mean, like, let's be real. You don't hear a lot of like Nepo babies who've experienced horrible things on sets.
Yeah.
You just don't. I mean, you just really don't.
Right. So.
And I think it's.
Why is that?
Well, right. I mean, it's because like in part, there's a power dynamic that like.
That kid has power.
They come with power
automatically.
They're probably signed at CAA.
Right.
Or like a big agency.
Right.
Their parents, depending on their level of like, you know, Zooey Deschanel's parents were like, her dad was Emily and Zooey Deschanel's dad is a cinematographer.
Right.
Like really well respected in the industry. They like had good agents from the get.
Right.
Like you're starting in a different position. And also a lot of those child predators that were around the set, like the one guy that was the PA that was so disturbing, that part.
Right.
Like they were preying specifically on like extras, like the kids who weren't the leads of the show.
Right.
And, you know, it really also occurred to me after watching it, a thing that I had never considered, which is I'm on these sets with like 200 people, right?
Right.
They're not running background checks on all the crew members that are in and out every day.
Right.
Even on sets of like adult shows.
Right.
You don't know. Somebody could be a sexual offender, a registered sexual offender.
Right.
That you're working with daily.
Right.
That's fucking insane.
Well, it's the same as like fucking, I grew up on a farm and I was always told, you don't know who these people on the farm are. It's different people every day coming in and out to work on the farm. Stay the fuck away. Stay away. It's dangerous. There's machines and there's men. I remember my Nana telling me there's dangerous machines and
it's
men.
Just like, if we can't see that the sickness is men, I don't know what we're going to do.
We should say the stuff with Drake Bell, it didn't have anything to do with, well, obviously it's related to Dan Schneider because that was his team and he was the head of his team, but it was like a dialect coach, that
acting
sort
coach,
of
dialect coach, and actor
who
was on a ton of, and clearly from all accounts of people from the past who've like talked about this guy now, like an absolute master manipulator. Like, I mean, it seems like to me, my Psych 101 analogy. I mean, he seems like a full-on sociopath, that guy.
I mean,
and he was able to, and like talk about the parents, he was able to wedge between Drake Bell's protective father, who had been his manager and had been there on set and had complained to HR and been told that he was
being homophobic.
Right.
Right.
And that guy, Brian Peck.
No relation to Josh Peck.
Thank goodness. But that guy, Brian Peck, managed to wedge between Drake and his father.
Yeah, because it's right at that age where you're trying to cut the apron strings from your parents. And especially a kid in the business is like gonna wonder, like, am I having the best representation? Or it's like, it's right at the point with your parents.
Here's the thing also that's like complicated, right? So for anyone listening at home, it's like, yeah, but like a 40-year-old, like why did a 15-year-old think that this man in his late 30s wanted to be his friend?
Right.
Because when you're on sets as a child, you are, even on a Nickelodeon show, the majority of people around you are adults.
Right.
And you are surrounded by adults. You become friends with the adults.
Right.
You see them as your peers.
Right.
As a teenager and a young person on set.
And by the way, that's almost every teenager. That's why young women are constantly being pursued by older men. And like every 15-year-old girl, I think has some kind of story of either being hit on or flirted with by an older man. And then a lot of us have stories of actually like getting together, dating older guys. Every teenager I knew was dating a cop in my town, you know? Like, I mean,
Caissie.
It's true.
No, I know it is, but I'm just like, Jesus Christ.
It's wild. And then, you know, and then the lucky ones of us had parents who were like, absolutely not. But then still a lot of teenagers like sneak and make it happen. Oh my God. When I was a teenager, I probably have told this before, but like I met this guy who worked at the local amusement park. He was like one of the costumed characters at a local amusement park.
Good Lord.
And like he and his friend wanted to take me and my friend Tracy to like a concert. And we were so excited to go out with these guys, but they were full adults and we were like 15 and they wanted to take us to like a Deep Purple concert. And it was literally, here's what saved us. We were all ready to like go behind our parents' back, go out with these adult guys, sneak out, say that we were like spending the night at each other's houses. And like, to be fair, our parents weren't watching us that closely and weren't that interested in knowing where we were. But the only thing that saved us is that like my friend was like, when the costumed character guy like took his costume off, it wasn't like
it wasn't hot.
It wasn't as hot as she imagined when he was like a purple grimace monster or whatever. And yeah, and so she was like, I think I don't like him. I think I don't want to go to this concert with this guy because he's not as cute as I imagined when he was dressed up as a monster.
Look, I guess like my question sort of remains, first of all, like, is there any way to rectify or help these kids like now, right? Like
right.
all of those kids.
Yeah.
That's like question number one. I mean, you look at poor Amanda Bynes. You look at Amanda, like, oof. I don't know.
Right.
About that. About like does Nickelodeon do the powers that were in charge and Dan Schneider in particular owe those kids and families something? And I kind of think they do.
Yeah.
I think they do owe them something more than just a fucking shitty statement that's like, shrug emoji, everyone was okay with it at the time.
Right. Right. And I think we have to look at Amanda Bynes, and we've watched her go through it, like publicly go through it.
That was also so sad watching that, just to remember like how talented and funny and like
star.
She was just a little like ball of talent and energy and hilarity. And like, honestly, I'm sorry. Like, I mean, I like watching the videos of like early Amanda show and like all that, you know, like when she first came on, I was like, that's what I was like when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I was like that.
Yeah. And I think we have to reckon with the fact that she is far from alone. We have seen this happen time after time since the 80s, you know, since probably before, that kids that are in the public eye, kids that are in the media, as often as not, things go really wrong for them. We have to figure out the reasons why, and we have to be able to protect them, or we have to admit that, like, maybe just being in the public eye that way is not great for kids.
Right. I don't think it is, especially like when your brain is being formed. And I mean, well, you know, you think about like how it feels when someone comes up to you now, Caissie, and is like, I love you so much. Like, I am so great. I like love your podcast. I love hearing you talk. Like, you're so incredible. And like, you're a full adult,
like more than an adult,
who's able to deal with and handle that attention in a way that's like not making you go home and like scream at your family. Because,
right.
People love me. You know what I mean? Like,
and those are the nice things.
Those are the nice things, right?
That break your brain. So never mind, like when people are like, "Oh, you're not as ugly as I thought you would be in person," or you know,
my entire life, by the way,
or just whatever they say and whatever brain-breaking thing that they think, and people feel so free to just say it to your face. They probably feel more empowered to say that to a child. Because it's a child, you know? I don't know, but I think we do. I wrote, well, you've read some of it, but I wrote like a YA novel that's kind of like based in this thought about how toxic, I mean, it's more than, it's unpublished as yet. I wrote it like 11 years ago, just about how we have to think about what we're doing to these kids and what the solution is. And in my novel, the solution is probably worse than what we have happening now. But yeah.
Oh, chomps, chomps, chomps. A jumps, chomps, 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 chomps. I just saw Chomps. Like, it's so funny. We do this with these brands. I saw Chomps in the wild and I got so excited.
I know when I see it in the store, and then I thought that the guy in the store was buying too many Chomps, and I wanted to be like, hey, save some Chomps for the rest of us.
I mean, listen. But
I didn't. I minded my
don't
own
ever. You have your own Chomps. I love Chomps because honestly, especially when I've been here in LA and I'm spending so much time, I forgot about the car time.
Right.
I forgot about being stuck in my car, realizing that I haven't had any protein that day.
Right.
Being so angry and
Emergency hungry.
Yes.
Yes.
And having a Chomps in my backpack is literally everything to me. You guys know what Chomps are. They are meat sticks that come in 9 delicious, bold flavors. So there's a healthy snack option for everyone. They're made with natural ingredients you can feel good about, filled with the highest quality, sustainably sourced, 100% grass-fed meat. You can feel good about that too. No sugar, 12 grams of protein, very chompable flavors. You guys, they're the best. Thousands and thousands of 5-star reviews. Snackers around the world have satisfied their hunger cravings with Chomps. And even better, Caissie, you don't have to worry about the guy in the store because you can just order online and have them delivered right to your door.
That's right.
And subscribe for ongoing savings. Right now, Chomps is offering you, our listeners, 20% off your first order and free shipping when you go to chomps.com/best. Go to chomps.com/best to see all the delicious flavors and get 20% off your first order and free shipping. That's chomps.com/best. Don't forget to use our link so they know that we sent you. Hungry Root. Hungry Root. Every time I say Hungry Root, Alfie barks. Maybe he's ready for his Hungry Root box to be delivered.
He should be so lucky.
Maybe he is so lucky. We don't know. Maybe Alfie's like, I follow an anti-inflammatory diet now. I need my grocery shopping to be faster. I need to save 5 hours a week using Hungry Root because I don't want to deal with the stress of grocery shopping and meal planning. Is that what you're doing, Alfie? Is that what you're saying?
He can't drive.
He can't drive, so he needs Hungry Root.
It's true.
Hungry Root is your partner, our partner in healthy living. It's the easiest way to get fresh, high-quality groceries, simple, healthy recipes delivered right to your door. Hungry Root recommends recipes and groceries based on your personal tastes.
And the way you're trying to eat.
And the way you're, like I said, anti-inflammatory.
Low carbs for me.
Low carbs for you. No carbs for you, really.
I mean.
Really no carbs. Let's be real. Let's just be
real low carbs.
Real low carbs, aka no carbs. You feel better that way.
Yeah,
and
I do.
If that's the way you feel, then you got to do it.
Just got to admit it.
And Hungry Root makes that very easy for you to do and to get those groceries delivered. Everything from Hungry Root follows a very simple standard. It's got to taste good, quick to make, contain whole, trusted ingredients. Guys, save hours planning, shopping, and cooking. Hungry Root delivers food you'll love. Right now, Hungry Root is offering, Busy Phillips is doing her best listeners 40% off your first delivery and free veggies for life. Just go to hungryroot.com/busy to get 40% off your first delivery and your free veggies. That's hungryroot.com/busy. Don't forget to use our link so that they know we sent you. I sort of, as a person who works in this industry, obviously, I sort of have considered over the last many years and I'm not kind of opposed to the idea that we just kind of stop having kids be in things.
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard. It's really, here's what's hard. Whenever, I'm not opposed to that either, but then when I'm like, oh my God, when I was a kid, it was my fucking dream to be on stage.
Wait, but yeah, me too. And I got to do community theater. I got to do theater in my high school, in my elementary school.
Right.
And the community theater programs were kid community. It wasn't with adults.
Right.
It was kid community theater stuff.
I was the same, but I wanted to do more. And if either of my parents had been motivated to do more, I would have done everything.
What is that motivation of the parents? My
know.
mom was always like, so funny, because Jenny Mullen and I were just talking about this. She's like, would you consider your mom that she was like a stage mom? And I was like, no, not really.
Right.
Because my mother was always like, busy, there's time. You'll be able to do whatever you want to do when you're an adult.
Right.
Like, you don't need this right now. You need to be a kid and like go do things with your friends. And you don't need all the responsibility of like adults like waiting for, because also, by the way, there were times when you're like, you fuck off on a school play rehearsal or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like you get in trouble, but it's not like you've shut down production or whatever.
There's not millions of dollars at stake.
Totally. Like the stakes are very low if you decide to get stoned before your rehearsal of Carousel. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know, like that to me is, I feel like there are certain, like people ask me a lot. Like my daughter really wants to do it. She's like, we've got her an agent and we're doing this and we're doing that. And like, what do you think? And I'm always like, wait, there's no reason.
Yeah.
There's no reason for a kid to do it.
Yeah.
And like with my own kid, with Birdie, if you're listening and you're like, excuse me, your child was on a TV show. Yes, true, fair.
True and fair.
I would just offer 3 things. Number 1, I know this business so well.
Right.
Number 2, Gloria Calderon-Kellett and I went to college together.
And you're friends.
We're friends.
Yeah.
I know Todd Grinnell well and his family, who was playing Birdie's dad on that show. And I was there with Birdie, like sitting behind the monitor, which also was like, a lot of moms don't get that.
Right.
But I did.
You did. Yeah.
Because I'm friends with the people. Like, it's just different. It's just a different experience.
Right.
And like I said about like those Nepo babies, they come in with a certain amount of power because of who their parents are.
Right.
Like, so, you know, regardless, like of whoever might have been there that day on the crew, right? Like, we don't know.
Right.
I was there and people saw that was my kid.
Yeah, that's it.
And people know who I am.
Right.
And also, I was like kind of grateful that Birdie was able to do it, because then it was like, it was a lot of work. And afterwards,
it put the fire out a little.
It totally did. She was like, I don't know about this.
Yeah.
And because I have no financial stake in it. I don't fucking care that much. That money is in some bank account. I mean, I know it is in a bank account.
Yeah,
it's not like rent. Like, I don't know where it is.
Right.
No,
you're not depending on it to pay your mortgage.
And like there are things that are in place for child actors now, the Coogan accounts, so that like their parents, hypothetically speaking, can't
rob them.
But a lot of the parents are also their managers.
Right.
And, travel expenses are paid for and like all kinds of different things. So like, all in, a kid who is coming into this business with a parent who's like not savvy, doesn't know what's happening.
Right.
Isn't up on like laws even.
Right.
So that was another thing they brought up, which I thought was really interesting, was that like child labor laws were kind of getting pushed. There should have been a SAG rep on set all the time.
Right.
I think there are ways to make it safer for kids.
Yes.
And I just hope that especially after this, that either the Screen Actors Guild, that SAG-AFTRA, or I don't know, someone.
Yeah.
Oh, also, when Birdie was on set, she had to have a tutor, and I made it very clear. Like I was like, I'm going to be very clear. She's not to have a male tutor.
Right.
Even though it was summer break.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
So yeah, also that was the third thing I was going to say, is that it was summer break. So Birdie wasn't missing any school at all.
Right.
But they still have to do this like tutor.
Yes.
Mandatory like on-set tutor. And I was like, not a chance. Is it a man? And if it is a man, like I won't, it's not happening.
Right.
Okay. So production was like, all right. I would think most parents like, and look, not that women, but we know the statistics, guys.
Of course, right.
I'm just saying.
Just
that's
increase your chances of
an added level of protection.
Yeah.
So I think that there are things that can be done and more, and obviously they have to be.
Right.
And also, and I have no idea if anything has gotten better. I'm actually curious about it.
Yeah, it's a really good question. But anyway, recommend like a cautious recommend of the Max doc Quiet on Set. Just, because if you're our age, you probably
a lot of kids, or like a lot of people watched those shows.
Right.
I was with people, my agent, the junior agent at my agency yesterday, on this commercial job I was doing. And he was like, are you kidding? I grew up with all those shows. I loved them. He's like, I was even too old to be watching some of them and I just loved them.
Right. Yeah. They were a big deal. They
still are. Kids. That's what I'm saying. Like Birdie still watch it and they're still available. So like Birdie still loves watching Victorious and
yeah.
What are the shows now? I have no idea because Cricket's not.
Yeah, I'm so out of it because Cricket watches like The Office.
Cricket watches The Office.
That's another thing is that I think my kids watched those because they were precocious. I think they watched them before they were teenagers. And I remember them being like, getting into the OC or whatever when they were 12. And I was delighted because I love the OC. And I'm not against watching challenging things and having a talk with my kid about this is why we would never do this. And this is why whatever. Like I was never against like showing my kids depictions of anything, drug abuse or, because that could lead to like a teachable moment. But I'm not sure how many teachable moments were coming out of those Nick comedy shows.
Oh my God. Following the premiere of the ID Discovery's Quiet on Set on Max, the Naked Brothers band alum Ali D'Meco, Naked Brothers band aired from 2007 to 2009. With Nat and Alex Wolff. D'Meco played the former's love interest, Rosalina. During the third season, D'Meco's character, who's a teenager, has a short-lived romance with a French man named Michel, played by Jake Herzog. In a scene of the two-part episode Naked Idol, he kisses her in front of Nat, causing Rosalina's temporary exit from the band. In a TikTok over the weekend, D'Meco spoke about the on-screen kiss after watching Quiet on Set. She said she was stressed watching the docuseries. And she said that much like other Nickelodeon stars, she went through trauma. She did not want to kiss that guy. He was a 30-year-old man. I'm sorry. I couldn't even watch it. It gives me fucking the ick. Honestly, gives me PTSD, D'Meco said while playing an edited version of the clip in question. I'm watching the Quiet on Set documentary. It's talking about how integral and vital it is to create, especially when it's a kids cast, to create an environment where kids feel comfortable to say no, or I don't feel comfortable with this. And I'm like, yeah, maybe they do express that though. It's also more important to create an environment that listens to the kids and actually doesn't make them do things when they don't want to do them, she said. She continued, they made me kiss this 30-plus-year-old man when I was like, 14, 15? I told them many times I didn't want to do it. My mom was very against it. They pretty much made me feel like I was going to lose my job and I might get fired if I didn't do it. Wait, and listen. She claimed the environment on set was one of highly nepotism Nepo kids, where everybody knew each other on the cast, more or less, except for me. The series was created and co-EP'd by showrunner Polly Draper, who was the mother of Nat and Alex. And their father, Michael Wolff, played the on-screen dad and their cousin, Jesse Draper, played the group's babysitter. Stemeko notes that Herzog, this guy that she had to kiss, quote, wasn't even an actor. He was the backup guitarist for live shows and practiced with us in band practice and always wanted to be written in.
Ugh.
Jesus Christ. Oh my God. So the documentary really like focuses on Dan Schneider, but clearly like it's
a thing.
This is terrible.
It's a lot. A lot of people are dealing with a lot. And here's what Drake Bell said that I thought was kind of striking is that he, felt like he got an empty statement from Nickelodeon and he's paying for his own therapy, which I was like, whatever you want to say about like Drake Bell's subsequent problems and whether they were encouraged or caused by what he went through as a kid, he spoke for, I'm sure, a lot of kids who came through this system and either went on to become big stars themselves or much more frequently went on just to be working people, whether they're still in the business or not. And they're responsible for their own healing of whatever trauma they went through and financially and just responsible for it. Like it's up to them. And that's a hard thing. That's a rough thing.
It's a rough thing when you consider how many people made so much money off of them and continue to make money off of them, off of these kids. Because we're all responsible for our own trauma, paying for our own trauma. Exactly. You know what I mean?
Yes.
But in this case, there actually should have been some sort of structure in place to prevent the trauma from happening to these kids. But it only, I mean, it really breaks my heart. It makes me so sad.
Yeah.
And it just feels like it's
It made me think. I have so many friends who are former child actors, or as our friend Heather Moderato says, actors who are children. And it just really makes me think of how they've lived an entire life that other kids wouldn't even be able to understand before they even get to their real life. Before you even get to the part where most of us think now my life is really starting. They've already lived a whole other life and had to understand and navigate things that I didn't understand shit when I was a little kid,
No. And I don't know. I'm curious if there'll be any more sort of fall. It does feel like a lot of people I have seen in this business in the last few days have been talking about it.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious if Nickelodeon will have any sort of better response.
Yeah.
And I wonder if more kids of those, former children, adults now, will come forward with their own stories that maybe weren't covered in the documentary.
Which I'm hoping that it starts a movement. We're talking about some dark shit that happened, some dark, not okay stuff. But also I will say in the times when I've just been doing normal stuff that had kids in and around the business. I know I've told the story about this Broadway show coming on the Rosie O'Donnell show and kids being in the cast, them watching playback of their rehearsal and one of the girls realizing that she was too tall for her role and that she was going to get fired because she had grown. And I remember the other kids rallying around her and saying, when we actually go out to perform on the show, just scrunch down and, hide the fact that you've outgrown this role. So I that's burned in my brain. And that's just a reality of the business. Also, one time I was working on an animated project and one of the kids, I went to the voiceover It was kid talent. I went to the voiceover recording afternoon to give notes, which I didn't have any notes because I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. And one of the kids was just having a kid day and they were like, I don't want to say this, or like, this is hard to say. And I remember the producer just saying like, oh, okay, you don't have to say it. Actually, you don't have to say any of your lines. We can just give all your lines to this other child actor and you can go home for the day. And it wasn't in a like, let us accommodate you. Because you're having because you're having a day. It was we can easily replace you and send you home if you want to be a baby about it. And the kid suddenly was like, oh no, I'll say it. And it's just sort of like,
but this is what I'm saying. Like, there's no reason why kids should be working. There's just no there's just no reason why kids And that whole thing is like, well, she just had to. I did too.
Yeah.
I'm one of those kids.
Yeah.
And my mom was like, yeah, okay, well, this is what it is now. It's your school plays.
Yeah.
If your grades are good, you can keep going to your actors lab teen program.
Right.
And when you get to college and you can figure it out.
Yeah.
I mean, not wrong.
Yeah. No, I mean, I guess thank God thank God so many parents must feel that way. But it's difficult. And also like, I feel for parents who thought that they were doing the right thing, like thought that they were helping their kids get their dreams and it just turned to shit, you know?
I'm just saying, like, also though, however, kids have lots of fucking dreams.
Yeah, it's true.
You don't
let a kid become a fireman.
That's what I'm saying.
10. Because
that's all I'm saying.
They dreamed of it when they were 8.
I'm just saying, like, they can wait.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
And I know I sound hypocritical because I let my own daughter be on that. And it is only hypocritical-ish. It's hypocritical adjacent.
But
also,
do you get points for acknowledging hypocrisy? I feel like you do.
Maybe, but also, it wasn't even like Birdie was like had an agent or anything. It was just like
she wasn't pursuing it.
No, we weren't pursuing. And then my agency kept sending us auditions for her. Just FYI,
which she was like, no,
not interested. Don't want to. And by the way, all those things have come out. She wasn't wrong. She has great taste.
She's got a good eye.
She's got great taste.
That's so funny.
No, truly, like it's just yeah. I don't think kids. I don't think kids need to work. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Anyway,
and by the way, I want to say this. I don't want to say this. Like, I was a kid. I cried. Colin Hanks tells this story, which is like so actually cringy for myself, like kind of embarrassing.
Yeah.
But true. Like, that I would like, as in high school and in college, like I would lay in bed and cry because I was like, I just want to be an actor so bad. And like, I did it. It's fine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It just it didn't need to happen like that. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. But I get it. Like that's how kids are built, you know?
You want something right then, right now.
Yeah. And, you know, I remember the first time I became a cheerleader. Like I wore my cheerleading uniform to bed that night. When I got it, I wasn't taking it off, you know? Like it was something that fortunately in that case, I was well taken care of by a responsible adult. But, you know, I wanted it so bad. And my mom didn't even drop me off at practices. I got myself, no, she didn't. I mean, I got myself to practices and like, thank God it was somebody there who like wasn't a monster, because had it been a monster, I would have just been like, oh, cheerleading is run by monsters. And here I am, and it's what I always dreamed of. And I was also raised not to ever quit anything. You know, like once you join something, you can't quit. Like I was never allowed to quit a job. I was never allowed to quit a team that I joined. And so, you know, generational norms are definitely in play. So my hope is that things are a lot better now. But the truth is, I just honestly don't know. And I'm sure there are horror stories currently that kids go through in this business. But my hope is that it's better. And my hope is that kids are being raised differently now to be more comfortable to stand up if they see something wrong. But I don't. It's hard to know.
I mean, it is hard to know, again, because I mean, this is like the other fucking thing, right? Like, because like my kids walk through the world with a lot of privilege.
Yeah.
So my kids, I know for a fact that Birdie wouldn't take any shit. Do you know what I mean? If anything was wrong, like she would.
You hope.
I mean,
you
it's
feel
been
like
proven. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Birdie's like, I would hope with cricket because I haven't had any, but Birdie's been proven. She's like,
she's a fighter.
She's a fighter and been vocal about things at the detriment of her own like social standing and like friends sometimes, you know? This is like in school.
Yeah.
She had a thing happen on the bus that one day.
Right.
She was immediately took action.
Right.
So no, I think Birdie, but that being said, I mean, the reason why I say like they have been raised and walked through the world with a great deal of privilege.
Yeah.
And that is just not the case for a lot of children in the world.
Right.
Whether or not they're being raised in this time, you know?
And I mean, when you think of like what the business is, like why are there so many predators in the business? It's because it's already exploitative of the people that are in the business.
Totally.
So it's so easy to make the jump from being someone who's like, I'm going to take you, vulnerable person, and exploit your talent to make money and to make something that's entertaining for people, but mostly probably to make money. And so it's not that far from being exploited to being preyed upon. It's not that far. And you're sort of like conditioned to behave in the same way, like to be cooperative with someone who's trying to exploit you. Then it's psychologically, especially if you're a young person, or an otherwise vulnerable person, psychologically, it's not that much to slide into a place where like being preyed upon doesn't seem that wild or out of the ordinary.
Right.
And these people are very good at it.
And they're very good at it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we have a hard left turn because we have an amazing guest today. Busy, would you like to introduce our guest?
Well, let's see. She is an incredible actress, singer, performer, soul cycler, and now author of a children's book. I first met her as a fan backstage at Hamilton. It is not Renee Elise Goldsberry. It is Phillipa Soo Pippa. Carry you, ma. Carry you, ma. You know what? This episode brought to you by Carryuma, a conscious sneaker brand with people and the planet at the heart of their mission. I'm excited for spring because spring is the new styles season with Carryuma.
And they're so cute. You can just put on a pair of little sneakers with a dress, head out. Boom. Outfit.
It's why Carryuma is popular with everyone from celebrities and then like places like GQ and Vogue magazine put them in stories, write about how great they are because they're amazing. They're breathable, ultimate comfort, premium style, and sustainable. They're always keeping it fresh. They have epic limited edition collabs.
Which I love.
I always do.
I'm such a sucker for a limited edition collab.
Well, I'm such a sucker for the fact that Cariuma is a certified B Corp and has a dedicated reforestation program based in the Brazilian rainforest. Come on.
Yeah.
For every pair of sneakers sold, Cariuma plants 2 trees. They have already planted over 2.5 million trees to date. Cariuma ships all their sneakers free and fast in the U.S. and offers worldwide shipping and a 60-day free return. They deliver right to your front door using single box recycled packaging. I love their packaging. I love that it comes in the box. You open the box, the shoes are right there.
Yeah.
I hate it when I get a box and then there's another box inside and there's another box inside of that.
All wrapping.
And there's so much boxing. I'm like, guys, I'm not doing an unboxing YouTube from 2012.
I just got some really cute black with white polka dots yesterday, and I can't wait. I'm going to put them on Instagram. They're so cute. I can't wait to wear them. But yeah, it was just box open shoes.
Rude. Also, I need new Cariumas for spring. Listen, guys, check it out for yourself. Go to the website and check out all of the spring styles and the collabs and how cute they are and how good they look with dresses, and you're going to be hooked. And for a limited time, Busy Phillips is doing her best. Listeners can get an exclusive 20% off your pair of Cariuma sneakers. Go to cariuma.com/best20 to get 20% off. That's Cariuma, cariuma.com/best20 for 20% off only for a limited time. This show is brought to you by BetterHelp. Listen, guys, we talk about therapy a lot and how important it is. And we're always so grateful to have BetterHelp as our sponsor here because the truth is sometimes it's hard for people to have like a lot of other things going on in their lives. And sometimes it's hard to fit therapy in. And BetterHelp is really here to help you figure it out because if you're thinking of starting therapy, you can give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be super flexible with your schedule. You fill out a little questionnaire and they will match you with a licensed therapist. You can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. You know, it's helpful to learn positive coping skills or how to set boundaries. It empowers you to be the best version of yourself. And like, honestly, you know, you never know. Even if you think things are like going fine right now, it's good to have a lot of these skills, you know?
For when things come up.
Mm-hmm. I think that it is imperative to have these kinds of tools, right?
To work on ourselves. We've all been through a lot and maybe we're coping well now, but we need to have these tools.
We do.
We have to take care of ourselves.
And BetterHelp gives you such an easy, convenient, and flexible way to get into therapy. I just talked to a lot of people who are like, oh no, I would, but I work all the time and I don't really have any. I'm telling you, this is like the way to do it. Find your therapist. Learn to make time for what makes you happy with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/busy today and get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/busy. BetterHelp.com/busy.
Hi, Phillipa. I'm Caissie. I saw you in Hamilton. You were very good.
Thank you. Hi, Caissie. Nice to meet you.
That's
nice
literally it's the consensus, Caissie. We all we all know that. But Pippa, we met. I mean, I feel like I definitely met you backstage at Hamilton a million years ago, but then I think like we really talked at SoulCycle was the first time we ever talked in LA.
Yeah, in LA. I think it was like outside of SoulCycle.
It was.
I think maybe we were about to go and we were super sweaty, or you guys were coming back, but I ran into you and Leah Michelle, Steven.
Yes.
And that was really the first time that we connected. Disheveled. Yes. I love connecting with people for the first time, just completely disheveled.
Totally. I know. Like post post or pre-workout. You're either way. You're like, what is about to happen to me?
Yeah.
And then, of course, like we share not just Renee, but also Sarah Bareilles is a dear friend of yours.
Yes.
And
As well, I know Ashley Park very well as well. So I feel like aside from Paula, I know the entire cast of Girls Five Eva, which, by the way, congratulations on the new season.
I hope you can be, maybe I hope we get a 4th season and I hope you can be on it.
I was going to say, you're almost like an honorary 6th member.
Oh my God.
The super fan that never got to, she was stalking them.
She's a super fan. She's like, I'll be the new Ashley.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So hi, welcome. How you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. I love your show. I'm so happy to be here and talk about this sweet children's book that
Well, we're so grateful because before you got here, I'm sure you caught the tail end. We were talking about the Nickelodeon documentary, Quiet on Set.
Okay, that's what you were talking about. I was just picking up on the tail end of that. So yes.
And it's really upsetting and really obviously and really disturbing. And so now I'm glad that we can have a palate cleanser of good children's content.
You watched it. You're saying that you watched it.
I watched it. Yeah, we both watched it. And I mean, in part because, so Phillipa, how old were you when you started acting professionally?
Well, kind of a roundabout way. I mean, I had an agent when I was in middle school and did like print work and like auditioned for film and TV, and mostly because I just knew that I wanted to do it. So I went to like a how to break into the business class with my mother. And while we were there were like, this was in Chicago, and there were casting directors there. And basically they were teaching you like how to submit your resume and a headshot and like literally like how to staple your headshot, like things like that. And, there was a casting director there, and that's sort of like the beginning of my quote unquote professional career. But, I sort of like did it for a couple of years, got to make some money, like working professionally, but mostly in print. And then like got to high school and was like, oh, I just want to be in the musicals and I want to spend my time here. So that sort of like went away for a while and then came back to it after graduating from drama school.
Right. Because you went to Juilliard, right?
Yes.
And did you always know you were going to do, I mean, your voice is incredible. We all know that. Did you always know that musical theater was the way that it was going to go for you?
Honestly, no. I mean, like, I don't want to make it seem like I'm like putting myself down, but I really was like, that's not a space that I see myself in. I went to this like straight like acting program.
Yeah.
I had auditioned for musical theater programs, which some of them I got into, some of them I didn't. But mostly I knew that I loved music and I loved storytelling through music, and I knew that I loved acting. But aside from like what was, going on at the community playhouse or, what we could afford to see in Chicago, like I was mostly seeing like Shakespeare and like, Chicago theater of like people just like throwing chairs all over the place and like lots of screaming.
Improv?
And
a lot of improv?
A lot of improv. So like a career like as a musical theater artist was not something that I was like, that's what I'm going to do. I knew that I was drawn to it and I was drawn to that form of storytelling, but I never thought, oh gosh, that's my path. Maybe it was like a healthy dose of imposter syndrome, and maybe I secretly did want it.
Right. I mean, I'm just curious. I mean, your voice is incredible. You must have. But the first thing that you did post Juilliard was a musical, right? Didn't you do the? What is it called?
I did.
The
Natasha
Comet.
Pierre. Yeah. The long title.
What is it?
We call it The Great Comet, but it was Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet of 1812.
That's right.
Yes. Long title on purpose, which was sort of making fun of itself, but yeah, based on War and Peace, which is also is a very long Russian, drawn out Russian story. I say drawn out like it's a bad thing. It's very elaborate. And so I feel like that was the writer's way of also making it like a little like wink, like this elaborate title. But yeah, that was my first job out of school, like my first professional gig ever.
That's how soon after graduating did you get it? Like immediately?
In my mind, it felt like a
Forever.
long time.
Yeah, I'm sure. I got it.
But in reality, I think I graduated in June and then had like a whole like 2 months of just like submitting for everything. And then we started at the end of July. So in my mind, I was like,
wow.
So in my mind, I was like, oh my God, like I'm unemployed. Like, what am I doing? I just graduated. Like, I'm not working like a crazy person, basically.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, that was my first job. And, like it was honestly the perfect thing because we were all there, just wanting to build a great story, not quite sure what we were doing, but like a bunch of interesting artists, some who were actors, some who were not, people like me, fresh out of school, and really just like a bunch of people just curious and coming together and like trying their best to create something meaningful and beautiful. And it worked.
And that's where Tommy Kail saw you, my friend, our other very close. You said this thing to me over the summer when we went to see Renee in Shakespeare in the Park.
Yeah.
Because I crashed Pippa and Sarah's date to see Renee.
I'm so glad you did. I was like, oh, this is so special that we all get to be here for her.
It was so special. But you said, my sister's sister is my sister to me. And it was so sweet. I don't know if you remember saying that, but you did.
We did. I did.
Yeah.
What was I referring to?
Because I was like, we have never really hung out.
Oh, yes.
But you're so close to like all of these people.
No,
I feel like we're friends. I feel like I know you really well. And you're like, my sister's sister is my sister.
Well,
and I was like, oh my God,
basically.
That's the nicest thing that anyone has ever said to me. Thank you. It was so sweet. But Tommy Kail, who is married to my best friend, Michelle, and directed Hamilton, guys, for those of you at home who don't know your Hamilton history. So he saw you in that.
Yeah.
And was like, have I got a job for you?
Oh my God. Well, yeah. I mean, sorry, I'm futzing with my headphones here.
That's all right.
So yeah, he and Lynn had worked, I think they had done Freestyle Love Supreme through Ars Nova, which is why they were there, the Ars Nova connection. And yeah, they both came to see it. And I got a call, gosh, my timeline is all like funky now because it's been so long. But yeah, I got a call like a couple months into that. They were going to do a workshop or like a reading of the second act of Hamilton. And he was like, hi, it's Tommy Kail. You just get a phone call from Tommy Kail. I'm like, hi, how'd you get my number? No. He was like, oh yeah, we're doing this workshop or this reading. And we'd love to have you come in and read Eliza. And there's like me on the phone being like, yeah, sounds great. Like all professional. And then like get off the phone with him. And I'm like, no idea who that is. Like, who is this Eliza Hamilton person?
I mean, honestly, fair.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know
him.
Yeah.
Well, those women didn't get a lot of press until Hamilton,
Yeah.
like we knew about old Alexander, but we didn't hear about the women until you three brought them to life for us.
Yeah. And that was sort of like the very like meta storytelling that was happening in that moment, because like we were saying, my sister's sister is my sister. Like all the three of us, but all the women in the show, this incredible cast, this bond that we had, it was so strong that definitely translated onto the stage. And the fact that we got to embody these stories in the time that we were in our bodies, it just felt so magical and important. And I think like you're seeing it all. You're seeing all of those layers come into play. This story, these women, their stories are not told, and we finally get to tell them, and how awe-inspiring that is. I mean, it was, on so many levels, very magical.
Right. And that even like, I don't know, that thing, I'll cry. You guys, I'm emotional today. It's been a full moon. There's an eclipse.
An eclipse.
I've been watching disturbing docuseries. But even just like, I think about it so much, like the end of that show, and everybody says basically their ending. And then Eliza gets to say like, and then this is all that I did. Mm-hmm. And she fucking did it all. Like she did the most. And it just goes on and on. Can you talk about that moment? Because I love it so intensely. Oh my God, you guys, Tommy Kail just texted me.
Oh my God, tell him that we're talking.
He is a psychic person.
I love it.
Oh my God, will you please?
Yeah, I can elaborate on that.
Because I love that so much. And was that always, since you were in like an early workshop of it, was that always kind of like a part of the arc of the story for Eliza?
No. So after that one reading of the second act, there was another reading that was the whole play. And I had never heard the whole thing. I went into it just knowing kind of like the second act up until when George Washington steps down. So like the end of the play didn't exist yet. And I remember being in that next reading where we were putting it all together, Act 1 and Act 2, and we get it, it's maybe like a week long, but we were at the end of the week and like a day before the presentation. We still haven't heard the end of the show. And Lynn, he's like, well, I've got it. He's holding the pages in his hands and he's like, and it's your song. And he like hands, he's like, and it's going to be Eliza. She's going to end the show. And I was like, what? I mean, I felt this like gigantic, like a whoosh of emotion, because just like for me as an actor, getting to carry that mantle, I mean, to be able to take the energy and that story and sort of bring it to its finish felt like a huge honor and also a huge responsibility. But I was so honored in that moment. And also to have that moment. And I think that's like when people ask me about the end of the play, they're like, oh, what does it mean? Like, what does the gasp mean? I get asked that question a lot.
Yeah.
And I really like always in rehearsals and doing the show for a year plus off Broadway, on Broadway, like that feeling I got when I realized that Eliza was going to end the play was a feeling that I wanted to capture for everybody else in the audience. Like that feeling of like, and it was her the whole time, making sure that his story was told. That was such a powerful feeling. And so my hope and dreams were just to make sure that feeling could be translated for everybody else to have that same feeling when they were watching it. Whether that meant, the gasp at the end was Eliza seeing her husband, or it was the actor, Phillipa Soo, looking out and seeing the actual audience, that there was a sense of like awe in that moment of this thing that had just happened. And that, Tommy Kail, got to give him some credit here, was like, at some point he did tell me it needs to be an inhale. It needs to end on an inhale, not an exhale. So,
that's interesting.
Yeah. So knowing that, I was like, okay, yeah, there's like a breath in and it's going to take us somewhere else. But that's the sort of like suspension that we're ending on.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's always been a fascinating moment because I think so many people are looking for like an explanation.
Like a definitive.
I was going to say, do people love to tell you their interpretation of what the gasp means?
Well, they ask me wanting me to tell them. And I have to always be like, I'm so sorry. I don't have an answer for you. I mean, like it was different every night. I know that sounds like super bullshitty, but like it really was different.
It's like the finale of The Sopranos.
What do you think it meant? But seriously, like that's the whole point. You're the audience. You're supposed to take it away with you and carry on with your lives. And hopefully this affected you in some way. So really, actually, what do you think is actually the answer? Truly.
Yes. I love it so much. I really do. And like, of course, you then... Wait, I mean, God, you've done so much Broadway since Hamilton too.
I did Amelie.
Amelie. Wait, but was Amelie before?
Well, I had done a couple like developmental things with Amelie, like at the same time as Hamilton when I was developing Hamilton, and then after Hamilton, I was able to do Amelie.
Wait, so Pippa, for people at home who don't really know how Broadway works, will you explain to them a little bit? Like, will you just explain a little bit the process of like the workshop to Broadway, to off Broadway to Broadway, like the pipeline, and like how many things, like an actor like you, who at this point, I'm sure you get offered and asked to do a million different projects, but like how, as a Broadway actor, you're kind of like continuing to do a bunch of different things, right?
Yeah, you're always in development. I feel like that's, even if you have a job, I mean, it's same with film and TV though. Like you're sort of like, okay, well, I have a job, but like this is going to end, but it's not going to last forever. What happens after that? Or what happens when I'm not shooting and I have 6 months off and I want to be doing something else with my time that might be feeding my soul in a different way. So like, at least for I would say developing a musical process, which I've done a lot of new work at this point, which is really cool. Like, I think that's a really cool, unique thing that I get to say to people is that I've developed a lot of new shows on Broadway. You start with usually a reading, which takes place like usually over a couple of days or a week or two, just sitting in a chair behind a music stand, just hearing the material out loud. And then that can develop into, a staged reading, which is, getting up more on your feet, putting it all together, having a presentation. And then that could develop into doing a workshop or doing, some sort of like short rehearsal period where you're really putting it all on its feet, adding choreography, adding some blocking, getting off book somewhat, and then maybe doing an off-Broadway run, which is, Broadway meaning like, I guess the technicality is that it's like more seats in the house is like.
Oh, is it?
Oh.
I always was wondering.
It's based on like number of seats in the house,
like,
but also because off-Broadway is like, yes.
Lincoln Center is considered Broadway, right?
Lincoln Center is considered Broadway, but then
it's like not near the rest of them. The rest of the theaters.
On Broadway. Yeah,
no, it's not
really
on Broadway.
Nothing to do with like where the
being on the
location
street.
Is.
Yes,
because I always thought it literally had to do with like it was
the address.
Yeah, like around Broadway.
Oh yeah, that's what I always thought. I mean, we sort of joked when we were doing Natasha Pierre, the show we were talking about earlier. So we did a run off Broadway, quote unquote. So in a very small house, I think it was like 70 seats in Ars Nova, and then moved to off Broadway, like in a tent where we had like a 299 seat theater that we were playing to. But that tent was on Broadway, but we always had a joke that we were like, near Broadway. Like, are you in a Broadway show? Yes, we're near Broadway. We're basically here. We're in a converted parking lot that's now a tent that is near Broadway. So yeah, we're on Broadway, guys.
But like for you were doing essentially like a workshop, the workshops for Hamilton as they were like developing the show at the same time as Amelie.
Yep, at the same time as Amelie. So, like I did I think I specifically actually remember a period of time where I was doing Natasha Pierre in this tent, and I was 1 week doing a workshop or doing a reading of Hamilton, and then the next week was doing a reading of Amelie. So
and you don't know as the actor which one is going to get like financing, which one's going to get
totally
up and running first. So you're like, that's what's always so impressive to me about Broadway actors of all calibers, like from all levels.
Is how flexible, and how much acceptance they have to have of like the way the cards.
But also just how much work they're doing all the time. Because you're
a lot of time.
A lot of the time. Because you're like in Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet of 1812.
You got it.
Yeah. At night, I don't know what your call time is for a Broadway show. 5 p.m., maybe 6. What do you have to be there?
Well, yeah, like if you have to be there at half hour, but if you're doing makeup and hair and you like to like have a little drinking tea zen moment like I do, I like to get there around like for an 8 o'clock curtain, I'd like to get there around like 6:30.
Okay. So you're getting there at 6:30, but then those workshops happen during the day.
Yes.
So that's like 9 to 5 or 10 to 5 or something like that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's a lot of work.
Yes. I feel like because I was so young when all that was happening, my body
You're still so young, by the way.
Well, thank you. But back then I was extra young and my body was like more is more. Energy begets energy. That was my motto. And I think I could actually do it. Like I actually really did have the energy for it. I was like, I'm going to go to the gym and then I'm going to go to this, reading rehearsal. And then I'm going to have some dinner and then I'm going to go do my show. And then I'm going to bike home from wherever I was downtown all the way up to Harlem where I was living. And
oh my God.
Meanwhile, I don't think he'd mind me saying this, but one of the funniest things I ever saw, like Lynn asking close friends on Facebook if anyone he knew who lived near the theater had a bathtub he could use between shows on 2 show days. to soak his aches away.
By the way, I feel that vibe.
Yeah,
I'm like,
100%.
I do too.
yeah, I get it. Actually, really deeply get it.
100%. But meanwhile, you're driving you're riding your bike between boroughs, and he's like, I have to get in the tub.
And then in between that, you are also like doing television shows and like you do everything. And now you've written a children's book.
I feel lucky. I feel very lucky. I feel happy and fortunate that I get to sort of like live in a bunch of different worlds and stretch myself in different ways. It's like, I think it feeds me. I really loved it.
We're fortunate too. We love to talk about a pivot on the podcast, and writing a children's book is certainly a pivot. Is that something that you had always wanted to do, or something that came up recently?
Yeah. I mean, I think for most people, children's books, the act of like sitting with your parents and hearing a story out loud, like it's their first exposure to stories at all, in their whole lives. And so I've always been drawn to illustration and animation, and I got to do an animated film called Over the Moon that came out during the pandemic. And just with things like Hamilton and reaching out to young audiences and meeting young people, especially young Asian women who felt like super inspired, have told me how inspired they were by watching my work, that really like gets you like right in the heartstrings. And you see how deeply it affects young people when you are thinking of them, when you're making something, or at least when you consider them when, they happen to stumble upon it. And so I think it really solidified, quite frankly, as the election of 2016 rolled out and we were all like a little bit like, what is happening?
Right.
What are we doing with our lives? What are we telling young people? What have we been doing so far? What have we missed? And so I think like since then, and then the rollout, especially like the rollout of the pandemic, but before the pandemic really, was when this idea started with my writing partner, Maris Pasquale-Doran, who is Stephen Pasquale, my husband's sister.
Oh my God, I love this.
She and we were at the annual Pasquale Christmas party, which takes place on Christmas Eve. And this was in 2018. And we were both saying how much, like, based on the past couple of years, she has two young boys, my two nephews, and who at the time were very young and just starting to get into these children's books. And Maris was saying how much she wanted to write a children's book. And I think at that time, the Eliza Hamilton children's book had come out, and I had formed a relationship with Random House, and I had written an afterword for that book. And
my daughters have it.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were so wonderful. They were like, let us know if you ever have any ideas. And
amazing.
And so, with that in mind, I was talking to Maris at this Christmas party, and I was like, well, I'd like to write a children's book. Let's try and write one together. Why not? And
your husband's sister is your sister too.
My husband's sister is also my sister.
Wait, that's really funny.
I'm always looking for the sisters. But yeah, like we were talking about it, and I think, like, speaking of pivots, like maybe I don't know if you find this on your show and when talking to people when they're sort of like trying to figure out different ways, like you kind of have to reach a point where you say, why have I been waiting so long? Like, I just feel like for myself, I had such imposter syndrome. I was like, writing is a really difficult thing to do. And I've chosen a profession that is also a very difficult thing to pursue. So how could I possibly think of pursuing something else in that way? But I'd always loved writing, my own things for my own pleasure, like songs or little poems for friends. That was always a part of my existence. But I never thought like, oh, but like this is like worth trying to make into something. So it really did take pairing up with a writing partner, with Maris, to feel, I think what I love about my job as an actor, like this camaraderie and this companionship that you have.
Collaboration.
Collaboration.
Yeah.
You're working with people and you get to like come up with an idea that's better than anything that you could have come up with by yourself.
Right.
So it was essential to have Maris there with me and to be there together writing this story. And we had a lot of ideas, with everything that was happening. We had a lot of trouble trying to like prioritize what we wanted to talk about. I mean, like it was so vast, the space that we wanted to try and fill and address for young people and what we thought maybe would be useful to them.
Yeah.
And this was like post-pandemic 2021. I mean, not really post, we were like really in it, but like in the height of, this Asian hate sentiment and coming together as a community of Asian people and really like defining the things that were important to us, especially like as an artist, the things that I wanted to see and the things that I wanted to make. One of our ideas that we sort of bounced around for a while was this idea of Piper Chen, who's basically my avatar. She isn't me. She's not like a young version of me, but it's definitely inspired by Piper Chen Sings is definitely inspired by things that happened to me as a young person and the way that I went through the world, the questions that I was asking, it's definitely inspired by my experience. But we were really just excited, quite frankly, about this idea of like a real little girl. I mean, you see a lot of children's books and for good reasons, like there's animals, there's inanimate objects, but like to have like a real little girl that represents herself first and foremost, but also might reach a community of people that see themselves in her.
Right.
And by way of that, might also reach a community of people that don't necessarily see themselves in her right off the bat, but there's something to be discovered there. There's a window to peer into, to look into this life that maybe isn't like your own and learn something from it. And so that's sort of like where this whole idea came from. And we're super proud of it. And, comes out next week. So
next week. And it's definitely like about confidence too, right? When you say, and like about empowering us, anyone who gets, nervous that they're not good enough, that they can do it, that they can like find the fortitude and be able to sing out.
Yes.
Piper.
And also like a book about feelings and managing emotions, about self-awareness, about being present, about being honest with yourself. We very much intentionally wanted this to be a tool for young people and adults alike, that if there's like a feeling that you're experiencing that's overwhelming, there is a way to accept it and say hello to it. And then by way of doing that, you're opening yourself up to being able to manage it in a different way that you wouldn't be able to if you were trying to like push it down. Like when we're accepting our feelings inside of us, ultimately that's going to make your anxiety go down. This is like clinically proven that saying that accepting the things that are happening with you will ultimately make you feel at least somewhat better about the anxiety that's happening inside of you.
Oh my God, totally. I mean, that's an amazing. I wish I had known that when I was a child.
Yeah.
Like I wish that there had been a book I could read. And what's so interesting, because obviously my kids are a little bit older now than the age range of this book. Although Cricket, I still sometimes my 10-year, she's almost 11, but sometimes I get her to let me read her some of her books. You know what I mean? I know. It's hard though. Like she's just, But what I love is like when the books are so thoughtful, like how you and your sister-in-law have like put obviously so much thought and time into making it so that it doesn't feel like a lesson is being taught to the kids because they're so smart and they know it. And as soon as if they feel it, they're like, meh.
Yeah, thank you for picking up on that. Because we were very much like, because there were a lot of versions, just to be honest, about like the process where the language implied that like, when something like this happens, you can do this and like, it's going to be great. And we were like, especially for Maris, who is a practicing therapist, she doesn't work with children, but she works with a lot of adults on this kind of mindfulness. And so like this prescriptive version of a story, which could be more exciting narratively, we were really trying to craft something like for a person who maybe is hearing about butterflies for the first time. So they don't know what they are. Like we say it all the time, I've got butterflies. Like, what does that actually mean? And if you're a little kid hearing it for the first time, what do we want them to take away? That's the most important thing, which is like, okay, what are these butterflies coming from? Because let's not like say that all butterflies are, probably good. No.
Right.
You have to decide for yourself, like, am I feeling anxious because I'm excited? Am I feeling anxious because I'm actually quite frightened of this and I need to like formulate a way to like create a boundary or to feel safe in some way? But because of the specific nature of Piper's specific experience, we're getting sort of a universal message of how to handle your own feelings and how to make a decision for yourself, which was very intentional. I'm so glad that you
I love it. I think it's really fantastic. And also now I want more Piper Chen books. So I hope that, because I think there could be more.
Thank you for saying it.
Don't you? I'm like, don't you?
Yes,
Listen,
of course.
We have big dreams for this little girl.
That's
and
the dream.
I know she could be a show.
Listen, tell that to everybody. we hope a lot of things for her, and luckily we feel very supported, and we're excited. We're excited to see.
Good, I know. And my friend Hillary Burton was doing your book talk in New York.
Yes, Hillary Burton is going to moderate our launch event, which we're super excited about. I just read Grimoire Girl.
She's amazing.
She's so talented.
Oh my God,
I know she's the best, and she's just a real girl's girl. I've literally known her since her first professional acting job. We talked about it on this podcast.
Yes.
But like, she's the greatest and such a, I don't know what's going on with this dog.
Well, Alfie has dreams of being in show business too. And so he's trying to be like the third host.
This is my best. Is this the cute dog that I see all over your Instagram?
No, that's my dog Gina, who's in New York right now.
This is the man of the house where Busy's staying right now. And he is also very cute, but he's like very emotional right now.
Well, maybe he's just like, I don't know why she's talking to this screen for hours and hours and hours. Like, what about me?
I get it. Yeah, he has like a sock. Like his favorite toy is a sock, and he has this sock, and he's like very upset that no one's doing anything with the sock right now. But you're our special guest today, but he has definitely made his presence known.
We know.
We're at my best friend Emily BB's house, and she's at work, and this is her dog Alfie, who's making our podcast.
And like honestly, we have to do it here because I have two dogs at my house who like the way that they would behave if Busy came over would make it impossible for any of us to be heard saying anything. Like they're not okay, those two dogs. So no. Alfie, I can't even get upset about Alfie wanting us to play.
This is much better.
Us to play soft
let's be honest.
Him.
Dogs are a gift to humanity. So.
They really are. They really are.
We'll deal with all that.
We'll deal with them.
A little emotion.
Wait, so Pippa, the book is out next week. Are you doing like a full book tour? Can people come see you? What's happening?
So the book comes out on April 2nd. We have our launch event on the 1st at the 92Y. We're doing some events in New York. We're doing some events which will be forthcoming. So stay tuned for all of that. But we're doing some events, hopefully like locally. We want to go to Maris's town in New Jersey to go do something maybe, with a local bookstore there, local Brooklyn bookstores, there's a whole plan in place, but we're excited about it. I mean, I just feel like I'm so jazzed after spending 2 years doing like press tours and everything on Zoom that I'm like, yeah, let's go meet some people.
It's exciting.
Let's go out and read this book for kids. It would be awesome.
It's exciting. And I imagine because you're Chinese and you're like Chinese American, right? Mm-hmm. Your dad is Chinese. Mm-hmm. And I imagine that you do you get a lot of little girls who are so excited that they see themselves reflected by you in Hamilton, especially. I can just imagine like how rad that must feel for you.
It feels awesome. It's like, it's the sweetest feeling in the world. And it really, this is such a crazy business, and being an artist is not always, it's a lovely life and I wouldn't choose anything else, but it's not always like easy and fun. It's really hard.
Sure.
And moments like that, that's what anchors me and really makes me like say to myself, it's all worth it because of this one little person being able to connect to something and someone that they feel that they see themselves in. And that means
And now
everything.
this book can go everywhere to where every little kid, it's so accessible. Books are so accessible, and it's so important for us to keep books accessible to children and available so that a kid that maybe never got an opportunity to come out and see you on Broadway, maybe that wasn't available to them.
But they get to see Piper Chen reflected to them and their experience, which is really special.
Bring a Sharpie everywhere.
Yeah,
that's my advice. Every time you see that book on a shelf in a store, sign it.
Yeah,
oh, yes.
That's my advice too.
We're definitely doing some secret sleuthy signing.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
And what other projects are you, the Into the Woods that you guys did at City Center where you played Cinderella was like my favorite thing that I've ever seen ever.
Oh my gosh, thank you. It was so fun. It was really like not to be corny, but like a beautiful moment in the woods. It was just like the perfect, it was like your like wildest like theater nerd fantasy dream of quote unquote, like your summer, like your whatever summer camp. Like that was like my summer camp for me that summer because, Gavin and Sarah and Brian and Patina, like we were all just running around like kids in there. It was just so fun.
It was like just the best thing I've ever seen. I was just sobbing the whole time. I loved it so much. Are you doing any shows right now?
Not doing any shows right now, looking for that next thing. I've been doing some concerts. I'm recording, I don't even know if this has been announced yet, but I'm recording some audiobook stuff.
Cool.
So
Nice.
That's been fun and really fulfilling. And, this post-strike world, it's a different world.
It's weird.
It's a little weird. Well,
Yeah.
I think somebody showed me something. I don't know if it was like some sort of like repost, but it was basically like, just so you know, it's not back. Like the faucet hasn't really like turned on yet. That's really not the vibe these days. So,
well, also just so you know, and we can cut this out if you want. I don't care, whatever. Because sometimes people think this stuff is boring. But like also so many things are holding because they don't know about the IATSE strike.
Right.
No, exactly.
So people aren't going back. Like my ex-husband's movie is like just in this holding pattern. They're not greenlighting it officially until they know what's happening with the IATSE strike because no film company wants to be in the position of shutting down production and then having to restart it. So they're just all like waiting.
Everybody's waiting.
And it's like, guys, we've been waiting.
I know we had a pandemic and then we had a strike. What are we doing now?
This is what I just keep like my friends are like, what are you working on? What are you working on? And I keep saying that I'm working on my EGOT. I'm not close to it. I have none of the letters, but I'm just like, everything I'm doing is like in service of trying to get that EGOT.
I believe in you, Caissie.
Hallelujah.
I believe in you.
But when you said you're going to read an audiobook, I'm like, great. That's another layer of a potential one letter in the EGOT, That's exactly what we have to tell ourselves.
I just feel audiobook award. EGOT.
And also, listen, I don't know, a Piper Chen animated series.
You could get that E.
Let me just tell you, I would be lying if I didn't say that we've been thinking about that for sure.
I'm thinking about it.
Yeah,
so,
I love that you're thinking about it. We're all thinking about it. We're all very excited about it. Yeah,
I am too. I think it's she's a great little spunky character, and I would love to see her. Maybe that's my answer to earlier when we were discussing. I was like, I don't know if children should be actors, full stop. Like, honestly, like I'm just like, I don't even know what the answer is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But maybe the answer is just like, let's just do animated shows.
Yeah.
Like,
sure.
Why not? Then they're protected.
Plus, I have to say that I always love an animated show that is conceptualized by a performer or a personality that is kind of like an avatar for their younger self. Like I loved Louis Anderson's animated show when I was a kid.
Oh, Louis?
Yeah, Life with Louis.
Life with Louis.
Mm.
And then also Amy Poehler had an animated show that was...
She did?
Yeah, that was just... basically like baby Amy Poehler, I think. And
That's amazing.
And I loved it. And also Ed Grimley. Like I love when
Grimley,
Martin Short did his Ed Grimley animated.
Sure.
I don't know. I think like animation it's such an interesting place because kids are much more open-minded about like what they can be entertained by, I think. So it's such a fertile ground to go to.
And you can go all over the place. Like you can, like this film that I did a couple years ago, Over the Moon, like, you know, she literally went to the moon. Like,
right.
Yeah. How are you going to do that? What's the budget going to be like for a live action film to go to the moon?
Unless Sandy Bullock's in it, it's not happening. You know what I mean?
You're not going to the moon. You're merely talking about it.
Oh my God. Are you talking about Gravity?
Yes.
Yeah.
I had a panic attack watching that because I was like, no.
It was scary.
It was, guys, that movie still affects me to this. There are a couple movies that I'm like, absolutely.
So much can go wrong in space.
When someone's like busy, would you go to be like one of the trial group of people to go to Mars and like live there? You're like no.
No. It's a hard no for me. No. Actually, even like I don't even know if I would do like a Ridley Scott movie about it because what they have to like what the actors put themselves through. Danny McBride told me this story about being in, which one was he in? Was it an alien movie? Danny was in some sci-fi movie with like a huge director as like a part in it. And what he described in being in the suit, I'm like, oh, I'm just too claustrophobic for that. Absolutely not. No, absolutely not. No.
I wouldn't even tour a submarine like on the land. I wouldn't even go on like a submarine tour.
Because I guess I like blocked it out. I did that Olay commercial where I played an astronaut and I was wearing the full suit and it is so heavy and so scary and was like really not for me. It was not for me. I love a little girl that wants to be an astronaut. Not my journey.
That is like, I mean, that's like, I would say like maybe one of the scariest professions that you could have is to be an astronaut.
You can't even itch your own nose. If your nose itches, what are you going to do?
You can't itch your nose? Oh,
no, because you have the helmet on. What are you going to like take your arm inside the spacesuit and then reach up and scratch? You can't. No. You just have to live with it.
Your nose just has to
one of these
itch.
Nobody can see me on the screen, but
I would not be able to accomplish one single space repair if my nose was itchy. That'd be it. Like the whole mission would be scrapped because of me.
What if you had a wedgie?
This is what I'm saying. And I think you have to pee inside the suit.
No, they put a little thing, a hose, right?
I don't know. I thought it was the space diapers.
Oh, the space diapers. Okay, right. And then there's also the famous story about when the first woman went into space and they sent 100 tampons.
Yes. Have you ever seen that comedian singing the song about 100 tampons?
Yeah. That's pretty good. That's amazing.
They were like, will this be enough for a week in space? We don't know. We're astronautical engineers, but we don't know how many tampons a lady goes through.
Sort of indicative of like every issue that we have.
Everything.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Just throw 100 tampons at it. Should be safe. That's just like the saying, right? Just throw 100 tampons at it.
That's my children's book.
We're throwing tampons at the problem.
Yeah. Instead of actually understanding what we need to do.
My gosh. Phillipa, I'm so excited to meet you. I'm so excited for everyone to get to see the book. And I'm really excited for you to get to have this new experience as a children's book author with your sister-in-law.
And meeting fans and getting to like hear feedback from little people. I think it's going to be really special.
No, all those kids. I'm so excited. And I will say too, like, it is the funniest thing because in making the art that I do normally, like that, it just involves me on a screen or on a stage. And I feel very much like, this is it, like putting it out into the world. Like, I don't care what you think. But because I like made a thing that literally lives outside of my body, for some reason, it just feels so much more vulnerable. This idea that I've crafted a thing, like me and my writing partner and this illustrator, Chin Lang, which by the way, I have to shout her out on this podcast because Chin Lang's illustrations are phenomenal.
Oh, I was going to ask about the illustrator. And like, did you have meetings with a couple different people and then choose... Like, how does that work exactly?
Well, for us, our publisher, Leeway, brought us like a couple of different... We basically told her like generally what we were looking for and then brought us some references like something like this, something like that. And then we sort of gave her our feedback. And then Chin was basically the first person that we really considered. And after that, we were sort of like, that's it.
That's it. We got it. We got her.
Yeah.
Guys, We got it.
It was kismet, as we say.
Yes, kismet.
That's amazing.
We felt so lucky. And, it really brings, I think, the world to life in like a gorgeous sort of handmade, the watercolors. I mean, it just plays on all of that beautiful playfulness of Piper herself.
It's so great. Okay, well, Chen Sings, guys.
Everybody go get it. Phillipa Soo. It's such a pleasure
if you know what I always say about great children's books, guys, if you don't have a kid, you can always buy the book and donate it to a school in your neighborhood.
Yeah. Keep a stack in your gift closet.
Or you can keep a stack in your gift closet to give as gifts if any small people come to your house or if you have to go to a party with a small person. But lots of like schools and even libraries would love book donations. So that's just what I'm saying. And a way to and a way to support our friend.
That's right. Thank you guys for that support. I appreciate it.
Congratulations.
Yeah, congrats.
It's such a pleasure to see you. You're so talented and you're just such a nice person.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. Can't wait to meet you in person.
I hope so. Well, I'll be in New York soon. So I hope we cross paths. Maybe we can get together with Lynn and find a bathtub.
Exactly. As you do.
All right, Pippa, have a great day. Have a wonderful rest of your afternoon. Thanks for talking to us. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
Talk soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh my goodness. She's a delight.
I know. Isn't she the best?
She's the best. All right. Well, we're working against time here because Emily Beebe has people coming to work on her house.
Yep.
In just a few short minutes. What are you doing your best at this week? We didn't even talk about where we went together.
Oh my God, we have to do that. And we'll talk about it also later too, but that book is out relatively soon.
Yes.
Next week as well?
Yes.
New release next week?
Yes.
I had gotten invited by Cindy Levy, who is the woman that started the Meteor, which I love.
Yeah.
If you guys follow, I've talked about the Meteor before.
Yeah.
The newsletter. And she was like, I don't know if you're in Los Angeles, but if you are, I'm putting together a group of women to raise a glass of something to Christine Blasey Ford because her book, her memoir, is being released. And so I said, that's amazing. The memoir is called One Way Back by Dr. Ford. And, I asked if Caissie wanted to come with me and Emily Beebe. And she's a very private person.
She's very quiet.
Very quiet. I think an incredible patriot who did thing for our country that she, as Kerry Washington, who was there, said, and was like one of the hosts of the thing, did not have to do.
It got her nothing.
It got her nothing except for a lot of, a lot of horrible things said about her and a lot of assumptions made about this person who is a person and had an experience.
And she felt like she had a duty to say her truth.
Yes, to speak her truth. When Brett Kavanaugh was being
installed
on the Supreme Court, it was really such a nice afternoon. Sometimes those things, anything, I'm like, yes, we will come. I'm going to arrive right at the arrival time and I will be out of there as soon as I can. You know what I mean? Like, I do have social anxiety, shockingly, right? But I do, and I have a lot going on this week and I'm tired and cricket's here and we're just juggling, everyone's juggling a lot of things. We ended up staying almost the entire party. It was so wonderful to talk to all of these incredible women that had gathered to thank Dr. Ford and
celebrate her accomplishment
and that and this book that she wrote. And I'm looking forward to reading it One Way Back. And we also asked her, both of us separately, but if she would like to come be on this podcast and talk about the book. And she was like, yeah.
She seemed
into it.
Be on board. So
I was able to like share with her my story about what her testimony meant to me personally, which was really, I'm really grateful that like I was able to do that, you know? And she was just lovely. And talked to Monica Lewinsky for a long time.
Kerry Washington gave an amazing toast to her.
Cindy Levy read a note that Anita Hill had sent in lieu of, she couldn't be there at the gathering, this little gathering for Dr. Ford, in support and solidarity. And it was really beautiful.
Very moving.
Really moving.
Yeah. And it was so cool to just meet all these women. There were, yes, a lot of celebrity women, but then a lot of women who you wouldn't know by sight, but just women.
Well, it's interesting. I wouldn't say there were a lot of celebrity women.
Well, I would more than are here now.
Because it's just you and me?
Yeah.
Now that Pippa's gone, it's just the two of us.
But there were a lot of women who were stars, like doctors working to keep abortion legal, and some of Dr. Ford's childhood friends who were so supportive of her. And there, so many writers and editors who I vaguely recognized and then realized that I knew who they were, and just really, really impressive. And like Emily was a star there. I loved that because like so many people wanted to meet Emily because of the great work that she does at the Emerson Collective. And yeah, it was very cool. We met Dylan Mulvaney in the valet line as we were leaving.
Wait, the funniest thing though about Dylan Mulvaney, I mean, Dylan Mulvaney she's just like a sweetheart and was so warm and just lovely and just like exactly what she is online.
Yeah.
But when you first said, oh, busy, Dylan is good friends with Renee, for a second, my brain had a misfire and I thought it was Renee Elise Goldsberry, not Renee Rapp.
Yeah.
And I spent the first like 3 minutes being like, was Dylan Mulvaney in Hamilton? Was Dylan Mulvaney on a television show with Renee before Girls Five Eva? How is Dylan Mulvaney? Dylan Mulvaney is quite young.
Yeah.
How is Dylan Mulvaney really close friends with Renee Elise Goldsberry? I am going to get to the bottom of this in my brain. And then when my brain like refired and it was like, you idiot, it's Renee Rapp.
Right.
I was like, oh.
Right.
But for the first like 2 minutes of you and Dylan talking to me, I was like totally checked out because I was just trying to like do the math on
trying to figure it out.
How she was friends with Renee Elise Goldsberry. And like also I was just like, I feel like how is that I guess. I don't know. Maybe they work together.
Know each other.
I just had like a whole journey in my brain. But Renee Rapp makes more sense.
It does make sense.
They're like the same age.
Yeah. I'm glad you got to the bottom of it.
In my brain.
Inside.
Yeah. It was never, by the way, it was never clarified. I'm just assuming that it was Renee Rapp. Right?
Yes, it was Renee Rapp. Yes, they are close friends. Oh my God, that is so funny. But anyway, everybody there was amazing and impressive and kind.
Yeah. I mean, but like to your point, I really only think there were like 3 quote unquote famous women there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think there were, it wasn't like a celeb fest or something.
No,
it was like,
there just were,
it was a lot of women who all work in the space of,
Yeah. People that are like activists.
Yes. And trying to help with.
Here's a fun fact about Dr. Ford. If you were looking for a fun fact, she writes about, I think in the memoir, that she's a surfer.
Mm-hmm.
And she was wearing a lovely dress, a cocktail dress at the event because it was like a little party. But she was also wearing Vans.
She was wearing her little Vans.
Little tiny Van shoes.
Tiny.
Yeah.
I was like really shocked by that because I just was like this, and you said it. You were like, yeah, because this person that did such a huge thing, you don't think of them as being so tiny. Right. She was like literally a tiny little petite person. Yes. Tiny, teeny, tiny.
Well, I kept looking like when they, she's going to be there. And I kept looking at very tall women and being like, oh, that's not her. That's not her. And the
vans didn't add anything.
No, they were not. Height. They were not platform vans.
I don't know. I'm doing my best at. I'm just trying to get it all done. You know what I mean? And I'm trying to be. I gotta say, like, we didn't even fucking talk about this because I was like, sorry, I'm swearing so much too. I'm just tired. But like, this trip has been really hard for me.
Yeah.
And also there's like the full moon, the eclipse, it's all happening, and like part of what has been so difficult for me on this trip to LA has been just like how displaced I feel here and how it's weird to go home and not have a home.
And not have your things.
And just, it just has all been really difficult for me. And I've like just been doing a lot of like sort of work to try to figure out what I can do for myself to make it better next time.
Yeah.
And like, and is there something I can do? Or is this how I'm always going to feel when I come here? Michelle said this thing. I didn't say it last week.
I don't think you said.
You guys, my friend Michelle just had the greatest line that she just made up. Because I asked her, is that something someone has said to you, or did you just make that up because you're a genius? And she said, oh, I think I just made it up, but I mean, I don't know if it's because I'm a genius. And I'm like, it is. I was talking to her and she said, well, I mean, it makes total sense to me that you've been having such a hard time and you've felt like you've had, these breakdowns while you've been here, because busy like Los Angeles is your emotional fault line. Isn't that a great set? Your emotional, what is your emotional fault line? And I was like, oh my God, it is my emotional fault line. There are so many things that are like sort of hanging on the balance,
Sure.
And if there's just a little quake, it kind of goes. That being said, the last couple of days, I feel like I'm trying to do my best at understanding what it is that I need and like taking care of myself. Hilarious that you brought up the bathtub thing with Pippa, because I legit last night, I have a bunch of work this week in the next today, tomorrow, and the following on Thursday. I'm done Thursday afternoon, but these next 3 are fucking insane, which is why we have to get off the phone in 2 seconds. This isn't a phone, guys.
We're here.
It's a podcast.
Other. Yeah.
It's also just a podcast. It's not a phone call. But I'm like, I was staying at one hotel that wasn't like the most comfortable for me. And then I came and I'm staying at Emily's house. And the place that Mark and Cricket are staying didn't have any other rooms available. And that was complicated because Cricket also didn't want to move around. So I've been feeling bad about that because she's not with me.
Yeah.
I mean, I see her every day a bunch, whatever. But like, still. And then last night I was like really getting just like, okay, this sounds, I want to take a fucking bath. I like need to take a bath.
Yeah.
And last night I was like, you know what? Emily won't, I'm just going to go for the next 3, I'm doing all this work. I'm checking into a hotel right now in a room that has a fucking bathtub. I found one.
Oh, good. It's hard.
It's not easy, guys.
It's not easy.
Turns out they got rid of them all.
Yeah. Which for good reason, but
I guess. Anyway, the point being, I'm taking care of myself. Good. That's a thing where I feel like I could just like power through it and be kind of like, But instead, last night was like, I can do a thing for myself right now. I'm working really hard. I can go stay in a hotel.
Yeah. I did the same thing. You remember when I did the same thing because my rental house before we moved into the house didn't have a bathtub and I was feeling very run down. And as it turns out, I was in the beginning of being sick. And I was looking all over to rent a hotel room that had a bathtub. And then I finally found one and it had a giant foot sculpture.
It wasn't great for you. That wasn't the best. But
a giant barefoot. Why on earth?
I'm just saying, all I'm saying is that
you took care of yourself.
It's hard, I think, for all of us. I just am going to make a generalization about you listening, but something I know about myself and something I know about Caissie. I think it is difficult sometimes to identify a way in which you can take care of yourself, you know? I think as a woman, it's hard.
Yeah. And you just skip over it.
And you skip over it. And I a little bit was like, well, I'm going to check into that hotel where Mark and Cricket are staying when they have the room available on Friday. So I'll just stay here at BB's house, which is like so nice. And I love being with my best friend.
Yeah.
But also I like have a bunch of work to do. I feel like a little displaced. I'm like kind of just like, I don't know. It's just.
You need to go somewhere.
Yes.
Where there's no external input sometimes.
Right. Exactly.
Except for the input that you require at that minute.
Right.
And that is sometimes really hard to find because you skip over it.
Yeah, because staying with anyone, like your best friend, your family, your like whoever it is, sometimes you get to a point where you're just like, I feel uncomfortable. Like I just feel like she doesn't really want, like even though she's like, I love you here, stay.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It's like how you feel.
It doesn't matter.
Anyway, so I just made that choice. And I feel like I'm doing my best at like trying to just figure out the best way that I can take care of myself. And that is one of them.
Yeah, you're listening to yourself. That's good. I'm doing my best. My torso hole is almost gone.
Great. Excellent.
Taking good care of that.
Meanwhile, Emily showed me the video of her lipoma getting removed.
Yes.
It is literally the most upsetting thing I've ever seen in my life.
Oh my God.
Have you seen it?
I haven't seen it. I don't want to watch it. But also I know just from being with Emily the other day that it was really sore. Well, talk about like skipping over things. She kept saying like, I don't know why I'm so tired and why I like feel so worn out. And I was like, you're walking around with a giant wound on you.
Yeah, no kidding.
Like that wears on you throughout the day.
Wears on a person.
It wears on a person.
Oh, and she kept forgetting to take like Advil or Tylenol or whatever.
Right, which is like we skip over these little things because we're like, who, me? Why would I need that? Why would I even deserve that sometimes?
Exactly.
And you can't. And so I've been paying special attention to my torso hole. It deserves my attention. It deserves my care. And it's really paying off. It's almost gone. It's like half gone.
Great.
So
nothing makes me happier than to hear that.
Because you don't want that.
No one wants it. Guys, we love you so much.
And we'll talk to you soon. Have a great week.
Okay.
Bye.
Oh no.